Well, you get up in northern Rhone, you get a lot of the pepper.
Okay.
I would say in southern Rhone, you get some of that rusticness. You get more of the earthy tones. But you've also got in southern Rhone more blending going on. So you don't tend to find you tend to find the notes of Syrah in southern Rhone. In northern Rhone, you get like Côte Rôtie, you get Creuse Hermitage. Creuse Hermitage can go, one of two ways. It can go the peppery and can be a little earthy. But I am a huge fan of like Hermitage, and Hermitage has always to me had a nice pepper note to it that just, it's wonderful. And
well, when you talk about Hermitage, I mean, what exactly is that in fact then a blend essentially?
Hermitage is 100% Syrah,
okay.
Unless you're talking white, which they're in northern Rhone. Essentially, what you're dealing with is 4 grapes. You're dealing with Syrah being the sole red contender in northern Rhone, and you're dealing with Viognier, Marsanne, and Roussanne. Those are your whites. So they blend in the whites. They play with those, and with reds, you have 1 contender in northern Rhone. The fun thing, and the thing that was begun in Rhone and now they play with in Australia, and I've tasted one from California, I'm sure there are others out there dabbling in it, is Creuse Hermitage. They like to tip a little Viognier in their Syrah because it expresses much more floralness. It gives it this nose that it could not have without, and you put just that little bit to
I was going to say 5-10%, maybe the most. Yeah.
Exactly, 10% would be probably the most I've ever seen, and it just changes the entire thing. It gives it this lovely blueberry, it just sings in your glass, as Viognier does solely. But you put it with a little Syrah, which is this heavy red, very tannic grape, and they together make wonderful music. I love it. So that is a northern Rhone product, essentially, and it's spread to Australia and a few other places in the world. Going on, Beckman Vineyards Syrah, after we've sung its praises.
Yes. And again, 100% Syrah.
100% Syrah, and you can see already just the inky red,
the
purple
darkness,
color.
yes.
I mean, it's just rich, and you can't even see through it.
But the beautiful thing about Syrah is that it's still sort of a medium body grape, isn't it? You can do something. You don't have to have this with a steak, for instance.
No, but it really depends on the winemaker. I mean, you have some Syrahs from Australia, which Syrah is the same grape. Different countries call it different things.
Right.
And we'll get into that at another tasting when we're tasting Syrahs.
Right.
Syrah. But the grape itself, and I'm guessing based on this producer and this color, you could could eat with a steak.
Right.
Actually, I was right, drink. But going on, the Syrah grape can be made lighter, like they do in Australia. It can be that more fruity, expressive, kind of fun, playful. So you could do it with going on to pork or going, into like any roasted red meat. But I would say with this one, it's looking like, and I'm guessing we'll figure out when we taste it, it can definitely go with a steak.
It seems like it's got a little tightness to it that this is the kind of wine that you'd actually open up and maybe decant. Maybe it'd be worth it to talk a little bit about decanting a wine like this.
Decanting, essentially going back to letting it oxidize and aging a wine. Decanting is the process of letting it breathe and opening it up and giving the wine surface area to contact oxygen. So in a bottle, when you open it, you have, what is that? Maybe 3/4 of an inch air volume that's getting in there. And the further you get down the bottle as you're drinking it, a little bit more is actually in direct contact with air. So you pour it into a decanter, and essentially a decanter, that's why they're usually wide or big, has much more surface area once you pour the wine into it for the air to hit. So that surface area, with more air hitting it, oxidizes much faster. The wines actually kind of mature a little bit faster. And with the decanter, you take a wine and you give a wine that you could have aged for another 2-3 years within a half hour, that process. So decanting is essentially the ability to fight time.
Yes.
So a wine like this, and I'm assuming when we get to the Cab similar, are huge. They're big. Syrah and Cab, two of the most tannic grapes in all of Vitis vinifera. But that being said, you can fight that yourself with allowing it to oxidize with a decanter. They now make aerators that you can pour the wines through too. There are lots of different things. Essentially what an aerator is doing is you're pouring it through and it's giving all of it that oxidation and contacting every single ounce of your wine. So it's doing the same thing but in a faster, smaller process. And tannic, of course, if you are not familiar, is the word for that tightness. Tannic is essentially a preserve for wine. That's why most tannic grapes can age longer. Preserving being the tannin's primary force, but it comes from aging the grapes with the skins and the seeds and everything in the winemaking process, where you have that cap on your wine as you're aging it. That's what transfers the tannins into the juice.
The contact with the skin.
Exactly, exactly. And once it gets into the juice, that wine can then age for longer. It's a wine's natural preservative. So, Syrah, see what we think. Cheers.
Beautiful nose on it.
Yes, you get that I love that earthy kind of, you almost get like a Rhone, and this is not meant in a bad way, as most of you will know, you almost get a bacon fat flavor scent that I get in most Northern Rhone grapes. That's a very, very strong characteristic in Northern Rhone, and this almost has that hint of just...
Not even a hint. You can actually really pick that up.
Yeah, it's delicious.
And it is, it's beautiful. It's rounded.
Yeah.
Carries through to the finish too.
This is a wine you want to stop and enjoy.
Yes.
This is big. See what I was saying though about how this could go with steak.
Absolutely.
It's huge. I would take it with a steak. I would drink this alone personally. Mm-hmm. Some people this might be a little too big. But I think because it's so complex with the flavors that you get in this, you get that bacon fat, you get that earthiness, you get the oak, you get the blackberry, you get all the jammy flavors and the dark fruit, that this is so complex, you could drink it on your own and it keeps your tongue tantalized. It keeps you expecting and looking for more. But pairing it with food, it would pair with anything strong. You could pair this with a peppercorn steak, you could pair it with a lot of things.
All right, so let's talk about cheese, because a lot of people think wine and cheese together. So like a big wine like this, what kind of cheese would you pair it with?
This would go with, let me think. You could go with really funky cheese with this.
Like a big, thick camembert, basically, like a blue, I would think, maybe.
Blue would be really good. The fun thing about this is it does have that jamminess, so it would cut through a blue. Mm-hmm. Blue you tend to think of with dessert wines, but then you go the opposite end of the spectrum, and here you are with a really heavy, intense, full-flavored, exotic Syrah, and you can do it. So this would do well with a blue.
Or a nice sharp cheese, perhaps?
Sharp would be good. The only reason that I like more of your camembert, your blue, is the texture. I think those textures would go better with something rich like this. So sharp would be fun. It would hold up to it, but I would say you want to go with more of a camembert or the blue. You've pretty much nailed it. But your funk, your deep, intense, funky cheeses, this will hit it and hold it and take it home. So you swirl it and it coats your glass. I love this Syrah.
Absolutely. And of course, being from Los Olivos, this is more or less, for those people who've seen the movie Sideways, this is more or less Sideways country, isn't
it? Exactly. If you're looking to find yourself lost in your own movie, look up Beckman Vineyards, and you will not be let down with these wines. They are delicious.
And not a Merlot among them, notice.
Yes. Or a Pinot for that matter.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We'll stick with the positive.
That's right. Seriously though, not that there's anything really wrong with Merlot.
No, never. And you know what? A well-made Merlot stands up among the best.
Absolutely.
And the most widely planted grape in the Bordeaux region is Merlot. And Bordeaux being everybody's probably first studied region in the world of grapes when they get into wine. Bordeaux was the beginning. Bordeaux put France on the map because in the very, very beginning of time, Bordeaux was exporting all of their wines straight over to England. So that's kind of where Bordeaux got its fame from, in that initial export, and grew from there. The fame grew from there, and everybody else grew to export their wines through Bordeaux because that was where the big shipping was coming out of France.